Chapter 1. The private elevator keycard weighed almost nothing in Anjali's palm. She pressed it flat against her thigh as the lift climbed, counting seconds to steady her breathing. 17th floor. Corner suite. Sable Quinn's people had booked the entire wing. She had rehearsed this pitch for 72 hours. Every slide, every contingency, every possible objection about budget, timeline, and the limits of a boutique firm going up against the sharks. She had an answer for all of it. What she did not have was an answer for Callum Strochin. He was already seated at the conference table when the assistant swung the door open, one leg crossed over the other, a leather portfolio open in front of him like he owned the room. His jacket was off, sleeves rolled to the elbow, and he was reading something on his phone with the particular calm of a man who had now once been ambushed by bad news. Anjali stopped in the doorway. No. Callum looked up. The smile that spread across his face was the one she hated most, warm, apologetic, and entirely unrepentant. Anjali just wouldn't get to shale. Which dessert a Saf? Hester shicked with a wento. After road? You do. Nobody always despides down. 17th floor, grape naturey completely, sepal, Ferger iron-brown hair, and pale gray eyes that did not warm when she smiled. A thin white scar ran along her left jaw, precise as a blade line. She crossed the room in 4 economical strides and extended a hand. Hester Falk, Chief of Staff to Ms. Quinn. Anjali shook. The woman's grip was brief and dry. I assume you know Mr. Strochin. We've met, Anjali said. Several times, Callum added from the table. His tone was pleasant, his eyes were not. Hester studied them both with the unhurried attention of someone reading a balance sheet. Then she walked to the head of the conference table, pulled out a chair, and sat. Please, both of you, sit. Anjali did not want to sit. She wanted to walk out, call Devika, and find out who had leaked the pitch schedule. But walking out meant losing, and losing meant the studio ran out of cash before Christmas. She sat. Callum's knee was close enough that if she shifted 2 inches, they would brush. She did not shift. Hester folded her hands on the table. I'll be direct. Sable has a specific vision for this wedding. It's not just an event, it's a narrative, a love story the public can believe in, photographed beautifully, documented truthfully, and delivered on schedule. The venue is a private island off the west coast of Scotland, Elan Mowry. We have at least for the summer. 90 days from now, Sable marries Rory DeWitt in front of 60 guests and a carefully managed press presence. I've reviewed the brief, Anjali said. The logistics are challenging but not impossible. I have a full proposal covering floral, catering, tented infrastructure, guest experience, and weather contingency. As do I, Callum said, including a vendor network already scouted for island delivery access. Hester acknowledged both statements with a single nod. Then she let the silence hang. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. That made it worse. There's this complication. Anjali's stomach tightened. Sable has become fixated on an idea. Hester's pale gray eyes moved between them. She have money's courage to stop. She know definitely. The one holy answers. As we any holy manages, Sable marries Rory DeWitt in front of 60 guests and a carefully managed press presence. I've reviewed the brief, Anjali said. The logistics are challenging but not impossible. I have a full proposal covering floral, catering, tented infrastructure, guest experience, and weather contingency, as do I. We need a minute, he said. Hester stood. You have 10. I'll be in the outer office. When I come back, I need a yes or a no. If it's no, I will release a statement that the engagement was a misunderstanding and I will thank you both for your time. If it's yes, we start building the backstory immediately. 20 and terribly, someone use a mask being actoring listening, a room went through that stuck. Fong is the windstack errands in the mile, even if he chanked up belonstered in the Oli Z's. I forced the clying, listening in my smiled mixed for marbing a shame. I forget it, I leered to takes, I hired to date. Plus, they do that, the exactness planet slicely. You're back with a someone from Tennessee, the promise, the mast more deforming, pace the brain hatch in studia. In 6, it was a blunt of them would be crisiving streeting in my death. Jolly. Shadow the week, the map. I just tried to shop, every seeing the man's despite it. Shutters from the pork is a saluted of disaster. Seabold team flies to Scotland in 4 days. She left. The door closed with a soft click. And Jolly and Callum sat in silence for 3 full breaths. Then he turned to her, and his voice was low and stripped of everything but truth. My company is 90 days from insolvency. Maybe less. The Jubilee cancellation gutted my cash flow. I have 37 employees who will lose their jobs if I don't land this. She had not expected him to say that. Not to her. Not flatly without armor. I have 23, she said, and 2 months of runway if the studio doesn't book something major by September. He nodded slowly. So we both drown separately. Or we drown together. Or we survive this lie. He held her gaze. Can you do it? Pretend to want me in front of cameras, vendors, her team, everyone. Can you? His mouth curved, not a smile, something sharper. I've been pretending not to want you for 3 years. This might actually be easier. Heat climbed her neck. She refused to let him see it. She tapped her ring finger once, caught herself, and forced her hand flat against the table. We need rules, she said. Chains of command. A backstory that holds. No improvisation. You hate improvisation. I hate losing more. The door opened. Hester stepped back in, tablet in hand, and looked at them both. Well? Anjali looked at Callum. He looked at her. And the lie began. Chapter 2. Hester lowered herself back into the chair like a woman settling in for a long negotiation she had already won. Good. She placed the tablet on the table between them. Then we have work to do. Anjali's palm was still flat against the polished wood. She forced her fingers to stay still, to not tap, to give nothing away. Beside her, Callum had gone quiet in a way that felt deliberate, like he was holding his breath and counting. The wedding is in 90 days, Hester said. You will both relocate to Island Moor for the duration. Accommodation, meals, and transport are covered. You will report to me and only to me. Sable's creative team answers to you on site. The documentary crew answers to me. Maliki Greer will want access to both of you constantly. You will give him what he needs without giving him anything real. Define real, Callum said. Real is your history, your disagreements. The fact that this arrangement began in a conference room with a contract negotiation. Maliki wants a love story. I want him to have one. What he cannot have is the truth. Anjali's throat tightened. So we perform? You perform convincingly. Hester's pale eyes held hers. You touch in public. You share a room. You know each other's coffee orders and pet names, and the story of how he proposed. You look at each other like the cameras are the last thing on your minds. The words landed like stones in still water. And when the wedding is over, Anjali said, we walk away. You walk away with your firms intact and your reputations elevated. Sable's team will issue a joint statement thanking the devoted couple who made her day possible. The documentary will feature your love story as the B plot. You will be the most booked planners in London before the new year. Callum's jaw tightened. And if we slip? If someone figures it out? Hester tilted her head. Then the narrative becomes that you were overwhelmed by the pressure of planning such a high-profile event. The engagement ends amicably. You return to London separately. Your firms survive, but you will not be trusted with celebrity clients again. That's not a slip, Anjali said. That's a punishment. That's damage control. Hester's voice was flat. I protect Sable first, then the wedding, then the documentary, then you, in that order. If you understand that going in, you will not be surprised when it happens. Anjali's fingers twitched. She pressed them harder against the table. Now. Hester pulled a single sheet from the folder. The backstory. You met 3 years ago at a Glasswing industry feature. You were photographed together. The article implied a romantic connection that neither of you corrected. That is the foundation. We build from there. We didn't correct it because I wanted to, Callum said. The journalist misinterpreted a professional interaction. We were rivals. We barely tolerated each other. You tolerated each other well enough to be photographed smiling. We were standing next to a cake. Everyone smiles next to a cake. Hester's expression did not change. The photograph exists. The assumption exists. Sable believes it. That is the reality we are working with. Anjali's stomach tightened. What exactly did Sable say when she mentioned the engagement? She said she had read about you both, that she admired how you had built your careers side by side, that she wanted her wedding to be planned by a couple who understood partnership. Side by side, Anjali repeated. She thinks we built our companies together? She thinks you are a power couple. The article framed you as a rising dual force in the London events world. The journalist used phrases like inseparable and creative harmony. It was not a stretch for Sable to connect the dots. It's a stretch because it's not true. It is true enough for a documentary. Hester closed the folder. I will send you both a timeline of the fabricated relationship, where you were seen together, what events you attended, how long you dated before Callum proposed. You will memorize it. And the proposal? Callum's voice was dry blinking. You are a wedding planner. You sell romance for a living. Sell them yours. Anjali's chest ached. She thought of Devika, fierce and loyal, who had stayed late every night for 3 months to keep the studio breathing, who had believed in the Quinn pitch like it was a lifeline. She looked at Callum. He was watching her with an expression she could not read. Not smug, not calculating, something closer to recognition. We need rules, Anjali said again. Separate chains of command on site. No overlapping decisions without consent. A clear division of labor. And a termination clause if either of us wants out. Hester nodded. Draft whatever you need. I will review it. I don't trust him. You don't have to trust him. You have to perform trust. Hester stood. I will leave you to discuss the terms. You have until the end of this meeting to agree on a proposal story, a timeline, and a public narrative. When I return, I want a version I can sell to Sable without editing. She walked to the door. One more thing, she said, hand on the handle. The documentary crew has already been told you are engaged. Maliki has pulled the original Glasswing photograph. It will be posted to Sable's social media within the hour. Anjali's breath caught. Welcome to the stage, Hester said, and closed the door behind her. Silence. Then Callum exhaled slowly and ran a hand through his hair. Well, that happened. You're taking this lightly. I'm taking it the way I take everything. He turned to her and his eyes were sharper than his tone. I'm calculating. Anjali stared at him. 3 years of rivalry. 3 years of stolen clients and shop words and photographs that had meant nothing. And now she had to marry him in front of the world. Chapter 3. The side room was smaller than the conference suite, a holding cell with a round table, 2 chairs, and a window overlooking a service alley. Rain streaked the glass. The air smelled of old coffee and decisions that could not be unmade. Anjali sat. Callum did not. He paced instead, 3 strides to the wall, 3 strides back, jacket discarded somewhere in the main room, sleeves rolled past his elbows, forearms bare. She tried not to notice the way he moved, restless and precise, like a man who solved problems by wearing out the floor. "We need a proposal story," she said. "We need more than that. We need a first date, a first kiss. The moment you knew I was the one." He said it dryly, but his eyes were sharp. "Sable will want details. The documentary will want footage. We can't invent it on the fly." "Then we plan it. On paper. Every beat." "No." She looked up. "No? If we script it like a timeline, it reads like a contract. We need to leave room for improvisation, for the kind of messy, specific details that sound real because they're unpolished." "Unpolished is how mistakes happens. Unpolished is how truth sounds." He stopped pacing and faced her. "You know what happens when 2 people recite a story that's too clean? It sounds rehearsed. And the moment it sounds rehearsed, Hester will know, Maliki will know, and Sable will start asking questions we can't answer." Anjali pressed her thumb against the edge of the table. The wood was soft, scarred from years of meetings. She imagined all the other deals made in this room, all the other lies dressed up as agreements. "Fine," she said. "Framework only. We agree on the major beats. The details we improvise." "Framework. I can work with framework." "The proposal, how did it happen?" Callum tilted his head. "Somewhere private. Not a restaurant. That's too staged." "A walk. Evening. Maybe after an event." "Good. What event?" she thought. "The Glasswing party. The one where we were photographed together. It's already in the public record. We anchor the timeline there." "So we met at the party. We talked. We didn't start dating immediately because of the professional rivalry." "Correct. Slow burn. That's more believable than instant romance." Callum nodded. "The proposal happened 6 months ago, a weekend away, somewhere coastal." "Why coastal?" "Because it's romantic and hard to verify. We can say we kept it quiet because we wanted to enjoy it before the industry found out." Anjali's fingers found the edge of her notebook. She pulled it from her bag, flipped to a clean page, and began writing. The pen scratched against the paper, a sound she trusted. Location of the proposal: Scotland, a bed and breakfast on the coast. We went for a walk on the cliffs. I got down on one knee. She kept writing. "What did you say?" "Something sincere. That I didn't want to compete with you anymore. That I wanted to build something together instead." Her hands stilled. The words hung between them, heavier than they should have been. She looked at him. His expression was unreadable, but something in his voice had shifted, dropped lower, lost some of the dry humor. "That's good," she said quietly. "That sounds real." "It should. I meant it." She looked down at the notebook. The pen felt wrong in her hand, the words too earnest for a lie. "Ring," she said. "We need to agree on what we tell our families." Callum's jaw tightened. "My mother is in Edinburgh. She'll want to meet you." "Can we delay that?" "For a while, but eventually she'll expect an introduction." "My father is in Chennai. He doesn't travel much. We can say we're waiting until after the wedding to introduce everyone." "That works. Keeps the circle small." She wrote family. Delay introductions until after ceremony. On-site leadership, she said. Separate chains of command. You handle the logistics, I handle the design and floral. Agreed. But if a decision affects both teams, we make it together. No unilateral calls. Agreed. And if we disagree in public, we defer to whoever has the stronger argument. We don't argue in front of the crew. Callum's mouth curved. You're very good at this. At what? Building a structure around chaos, making it manageable. It's the only way I survive. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition again, that same look from the conference room. We need ground rules, he said. Physical boundaries. Anjali's stomach tightened. What kind of boundaries? Public versus private. What's acceptable in front of cameras versus what we keep between us? Handholding in public, arm around the shoulder, brief kisses, nothing more. Brief kisses? On the cheek, or a quick press, nothing that lingers. And in private? We keep distance, separate spaces when we're not being observed. That's going to be hard in a shared room. She looked at him. Then we make it work. Floor, chairs, whatever it takes. And if we have to share a bed? We won't. The island might not give us a choice. Then we negotiate it when we get there. He held her gaze. You're very good at deferring the hard questions. I'm good at prioritizing. The hard questions can wait until they're necessary. And the attraction? She went still. We're going to be touching each other for 3 months, he said, pretending to be in love, sleeping in the same room. What happens when it stops being pretend? It won't. You're sure about that? I'm sure about the rules. Rules don't stop feelings. She set the pen down. Her hands were steady. Her voice was steady. Everything about her was steady except the pulse she could feel in her throat. Then we make sure the rules are stronger than the feelings. Callum looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Framework only, he said. We agree on the beats. We improvise the rest. Yes, and when it gets hard, we stick to the plan. Yes. He held out his hand. Then we have a deal. She took it. His fingers closed around hers, warm and certain. The contact lasted a second longer than necessary. One more thing, she said. What? The ring finger tap. I do it when I'm lying. Hester might have noticed. I know. She blinked. How do you know? I've been watching you for 3 years, remember? She pulled her hand back. The door opened. Hester stood in the frame, and velvet box in one hand and a tablet in the other. Behind her, a man in a dark suit waited with the patient stillness of someone paid to be invisible. The jeweler is here, Hester said, and the documentary schedule has been finalized. You have your first on-camera interview in 48 hours. Maliki wants the ring visible. Anjali looked at the velvet box. The lie was no longer theoretical. It had weight. It had a stone. And in 2 days, it would have a camera. Your culture recorded, it will see it? Did not look at Callum. She wanted to Swiss for the popple bland. I felt out there warm, arms crossed, leaning against the window frame like he had all the time in the world. Hester checked her tablet. You leave the hotel through the main lobby. There will be staff, some press, and at least 2 phones recording. You walk out together. You look happy. You do not answer questions.